All right, we've got Tom Homan here, the former acting ICE director. He's going to talk about this push the administration has to go through with these deportations. More than that in a sec, but I did want to give Tom a chance to respond to what Mercedes Cohen was talking about regarding this question in the census that the administration wants to push by executive order to make sure you can still ask, are you a legal citizen of the United States? Where do you think this is going, Tom?
I hope the administration succeeds in it for a couple of reasons. Number one, don't we want to know how many illegal aliens are in the United States? And if they're talking about immigration reform, free medical care, pathway to citizenship for people here illegally for a while, don't we want to know what that population is? I think that'd be the basis of making some of these decisions. And second of all, I don't think representation in the House of Representatives or the Electoral College that elects our president should be based on people that are here illegally. So I think it's good for a couple reasons.
So let me switch gears a little bit here. Regardless of how that works, the administration still says it's going to pursue these deportations, legal deportations, the kind that went under Barack Obama, in cases already adjudicated and judged, all right, you have to go back to Mexico or Honduras or Guatemala, wherever. And it's going to start soon. The president didn't indicate how soon. How do you think that's going to go?
Look, it's going to be controversial, but I think it needs to be done. It's not a question, should it be done? It has to be done. And as you said, Neil, I did this when I was the executive associate director at ICE. I ran a national operation called Operation Border Guarding back in 2015, where we went and sought out those who had final orders, specifically family units. We arrested some family units that had final orders by an immigration judge. We put them on an airplane and sent them home, and the border numbers went down because we showed there's a consequence to deterrence. If a final order by immigration judge after due process doesn't mean anything, then there's no integrity in the system. Just open the border up and let everybody in, because there's no consequence anymore. There's no law. There's no rule governing who can come in, who can come in the United States legally.
Tom, what do you do for the illegals here and protected in sanctuary cities, towns, or states? They're going to do everything in their power, these cities, towns, or states, to make sure that the feds can't get in there.
Well, they're not going to stop the feds from doing their job. Look, they can not assist, which they've done, or they can do what the Oakland mayor did and give them a heads up. ICE is in town, but the men and women of ICE will do their job.
Well, that's illegal. The heads up is an illegal act, right?
Not only that, but you had a congressman the other day, Ocasio-Cortez, talking about how people should take them into their homes. Look, aiding and abetting, harboring an illegal alien is a felony. So ICE is going to take this seriously. Like these people have had their due process at great taxpayer expense. They've been ordered by Judge Homan. If you and I ignore the judge's order, what happens to us, Neil? This has to be done. As controversial it is, if we don't do it, then you might as well just blow the whole system up and open the border up, because we have no security, we have no sovereignty, we have no rule of law of the country anymore. So if people want to step in the way of ICE, then look for further action from ICE. It's a crime to impede federal law enforcement officers. The
law is on your side in this case, Tom. There's no doubt about that. But of course, images can play havoc in the middle of this. And the reason why I'm thinking, I'm old enough to remember the Elian Gonzalez case when he was seized from a home and ultimately sent back to Cuba. And it was those images, legal as they were to retrieve him, that stuck in Americans' heads during the Clinton administration. That's going to be inevitable. The images of ICE agents, ramming on doors to try to get people to say, all right, you're arrested, you have to go back. How is that all going to go down?
Well, look, I think for those people who are going to push that message, I think you need to ask them one question. What is your option? What do you want to do? Because if there's no integrity in the system, if people can come here in the United States, they can enter illegally and get to stay forever because we're not brave enough to enforce the law, that's going to send a bad message to the rest of the world. Come here, violate our laws. The facilities will still be overcrowded. If the message we want to send to the rest of the world is, come here with a child, you can even have due process at great taxpayer expense, billions of dollars, and when a federal judge orders you removed, you don't have to leave because it's uncomfortable to arrest you and make you leave, then we're never going to solve the border crisis. And this isn't just about enforcing the law, Neil. This is about saving lives. Children are dying entering this country. 31% of women are being raped. We got to send a message. It's not okay. And we're bankrolling criminal organizations that are smuggling these people. It's just not about enforcing laws. It's about saving lives and taking money out of criminal organizations' hands. It's the right thing to do. As sad, as unfortunate sometimes enforcing law is, it doesn't mean we ignore it.
I'd be remiss if I didn't mention that there's these Facebook postings of present, maybe former, CBP workers who had disparaging comments they made about those who they were protecting at these facilities, or words those who visited them. Do you believe, if it's proven that many of them said the things they were alleged to have said, that they should be terminated?
I won't wait and see what the investigation shows, but I've been told that from my sources, there's only several people that posted things to that extreme, and of course they need to be dealt with. That's not the way. That's not the Border Patrol I know, and I think it distracts from the fine work the Border Patrol agents are doing. But I'll say this: at what point, when you go to work every day, you're being called a Nazi or racist, that you're making women drink out of toilets, which is total crap. And when you go to work every day and hear these things, you get beat down every day, you get pushed in the corner every day. At what point does your spirit get broken? You may do some things that you probably shouldn't have done. I'm not making excuses for anybody, but these men and women of the Border Patrol, they're doing a great job in a very difficult circumstances, and the vast majority of them are doing the right thing for their nation. And if a few people step out of line, they should be dealt with, absolutely.
All right, Tom Homan, thank you very, very much. Good seeing you again. We've got trial attorney Brad Micklin with us right now. He says the question is indeed lawful. That's interesting, Brad. They just need more compelling evidence, at least the read from the Supreme Court, for it to be on there. Is that the gist of it?
I think so. The Supreme Court didn't reject the question. The question's been used many times in the past. They rejected the rationale. So President Trump needs to either come back with a better explanation as to why the Voters' Right Act applies, a new consideration saying that they had ancillary concerns and we just didn't raise that, or what I really think he should do is say that the intention is to make sure that illegal immigrants are properly represented in government. That's the whole purpose of the census. So how could any Democratic Party be concerned or object to that?
Brad, I don't know what the specific year this question was taken out of the census, but there was no hullabaloo raised when it was. So why was that? And then why is it simply placing it back in there, which is the vast history of our country on this census? How did it get to be like that?
Well, I think it was only recently taken out. Remember, the census only goes out every 10 years. So
right.
I think it was the Obama administration that removed the question. I mean, right now it's simply just a political issue that certain states are worried about losing funding or representation. But it's hypocritical to say and spend all this time and money fighting the inclusion of a question when the whole opposition is that we're trying to protect illegal immigrants.
So let's say they have to come up with a more convincing argument than this keeps track of who's in this country and who are legitimate citizens here versus not. But that is kind of what the Commerce Department said, or the Commerce Secretary Wilbur Ross argued in keeping or returning that question to the form. That obviously wasn't enough. So what would be?
Well, it's hard to say, and the challenging issue the Trump administration is going to have is coming forward and saying, well, we said one thing, but we really meant another. Now, they could say, and I'm certainly sure that they had ancillary concerns that maybe they did in advance, but they need to come up with something that's going to be compelling to sidestep that they presented the Voter Rights Act argument.
So what's to behoove someone who's illegal from filling it out one way or the other, whether you're going to answer that question or not?
Well, the real problem is the faith in the government not to exploit the information, because the census information is strictly confidential and can only be used for statistical purposes. The fact that people are arguing, and rightly so, that it will discourage honest responses means we don't have faith in the government protecting the information, and that's where our efforts should be, promoting that the census is protected.
Well, given the recent history we've had with information that leaks out, I could well understand, right?
Well, right, but again, that's not information from the census. We haven't done a census since 2010.
All right, let's hope you're right. Brad, thank you very much. Good seeing you.
We're thinking about doing that. It's one of the ways. We have 4 or 5 ways we can do it. It's one of the ways, and we're thinking about doing it very seriously. We're doing well in the census. No, he made a statement. He wrote something out. The judge didn't like it. I have a lot of respect for Justice Roberts, but he didn't like it. But he did say, come back. Essentially, he said, come back. That's what he was saying. So we'll see what happens. We can also add an addition on, so we can start the printing now and maybe do an addendum after we get a positive decision. So we're working on a lot of things, including an executive order.